On a winter evening in 1988, a routine transatlantic flight became one of the deadliest acts of aviation terrorism in history. 270 people would not come home. This is the story of Pan Am Flight 103. December 21, 1988. Pan American World Airways Flight 103, a Boeing 747 named Clipper Maid of the Seas, left London Heathrow bound for New York's John F. Kennedy Airport. Families were flying home for the holidays. Students were heading back from study abroad. Crew members prepared for another North Atlantic crossing. For the people on board, the cabin lights, the seatbelts, and the climb out of London felt ordinary. That is part of why the night still shocks. Ordinary evenings are where unexpected violence cuts deepest. About 38 minutes after takeoff, at roughly 31,000 feet over southern Scotland, a bomb detonated in the forward cargo hold. The aircraft broke apart in midair. Wreckage and fires fell across the town of Lockerbie and the surrounding countryside. All 243 passengers and 16 crew members died. 11 people on the ground in Lockerbie were also killed when debris struck residential streets. In total, 270 lives were lost. This was not a mechanical freak accident. It was a deliberate attack aimed at civilians in the air, and it also killed civilians who were simply at home. In the hours that followed, emergency services, neighbors, and investigators confronted a crime scene the size of a landscape. Fields, gardens, and rooftops held fragments of an airliner and of everyday lives interrupted without warning. The scale forced a methodical response. If justice was going to mean anything, evidence had to be found, labeled, mapped, and reconstructed before weather and salvage erased it. Investigators from Scotland, the United Kingdom, and the United States began one of the largest aviation crime reconstructions ever attempted. They collected thousands of pieces of wreckage across fields, hills, and streets. From the pattern of damage and the chemistry of residue, they concluded a plastic explosive, Semtex, had been hidden inside a radiocassette player packed in a suitcase. The suitcase, tracing showed, had entered the system through complex transfer routing rather than walking onto the aircraft with a passenger who claimed it. The bomb's timer and circuit fragments became linchpins of the case, tiny manufactured objects carrying outsized historical weight. Attention turned toward Libya amid a broader climate of state-linked terrorism accusations and diplomatic conflict. After years of intelligence work, Scottish prosecutors charged 2 Libyan men. In 2001, a special Scottish court sitting at Camp Zeist in the Netherlands convicted Abdelbasset al-Megrahi of murder for his role in the bombing. The second defendant was acquitted. Megrahi was later granted compassionate release from prison in 2009 after a terminal cancer diagnosis and died in 2012. His conviction remains disputed by some families and campaigners who want a fuller accounting of possible additional conspirators. Others consider the core finding a Libyan-linked bomb plot against a civilian airliner, established by court and diplomacy. History rarely ends with a single verdict. In 2003, Libya accepted responsibility for the actions of its officials in connection with the bombing and agreed to a major compensation settlement for victims' families. That agreement mattered practically for people who had already endured years of grief and diplomacy. It also mattered symbolically, a state acknowledging that agents acting in its orbit had crossed the line into mass murder of passengers and townspeople. Even so, the legal story did not freeze in 2003. Decades later, United States prosecutors brought additional charges against another suspect, alleged to have helped build the device. Cold case terrorism work can advance when forensic methods improve, archives open, or political conditions change. Whatever the ultimate courtroom outcomes of later charges, the through line is persistence. Societies that take civilian lives seriously keep asking who built the bomb, who loaded the bag, and who ordered the plot, not because questions comfort the grieving overnight, but because unanswered murder invites future violence. What Flight 103 also changed was the practical world of flying. Aviation security tightened around hold baggage, reconciliation of passengers with bags, and screening standards designed to stop an unaccompanied suitcase from becoming a weapon. Before Lockerbie, Many travelers treated airports as inconveniences. After Lockerbie, governments and airlines were forced to treat the hold as part of the battlefield of terrorism. Every later generation of bag matching and explosive detection rules sits, in part, on lessons written in that Scottish winter dark. Lockerbie itself became a site of mourning and quiet endurance. Memorials honor the murdered, including the 11 local residents whose ordinary evening became a disaster zone when metal and fire fell from the sky. Families from the United States, the United Kingdom, and many other countries lost children, parents, friends, and colleagues. Syracuse University alone lost 35 students returning from a study abroad program, a reminder that the passenger list was not an abstract manifest. It was a census of interrupted futures. Remembering them means refusing to reduce 270 people to a crime statistic or a political slogan. They had names, seats, holiday plans, and futures that ended in a few seconds of mid-air violence. A responsible retelling keeps the camera on facts and memory, not on spectacle. There is nothing educational about turning their last moments into shock content. So when people ask what happened on Pan Am Flight 103, the short answer is this. A bomb planted in checked luggage destroyed a passenger jet over Lockerbie on December 21, 1988, killing everyone aboard and 11 people on the ground. The long answer is an investigation that remapped a town, a court process that spanned continents, a state responsibility settlement, continuing efforts to identify every hand involved, and a security legacy that still shapes how we fly. The night was criminal. The only fitting public response is evidence, accountability, and remembrance, spoken carefully, again and again, so the murdered are not forgotten. Follow for more amazing facts.